Pakistan orders foreign staff from the aid group Save the Children to leave the country within weeks. We examine the reasons why and ask how worried charities working in Pakistan and other developing countries should be, and whether in the end it'll be the most vulnerable in Pakistan who'll suffer. This is Inside Story. Hello again, I'm James Bays. Pakistani authorities have ordered Save the Children's international workers to leave the country within 4 weeks after suspicions that a doctor used the aid agency as cover for a CIA operation. The aid agency said it received no explanation for the decision not to renew the workers' visas. But a Pakistani intelligence report linked it to the Pakistani doctor Shakil Afridi, who it's alleged was recruited by the CIA to help track down Osama bin Laden last year. Security sources quoted by local media say Dr. Afridi told investigators that he'd been working for Save the Children. The aid group strongly denies this. The charity has been operating in Pakistan for 30 years, employing more than 2,000 Pakistani staff and helping millions of children. Now let's listen to these comments from Ishbel Matheson. She's the spokesperson for Save the Children.
No, we're absolutely clear. We absolutely deny any of those allegations. Dr. Afridi, the doctor in question, never worked for us. He was never employed by us. We didn't run a vaccination program in Abbottabad. And any allegations of links between us and Dr. Afridi in this respect are absolutely untrue. Just one thing to be clear, though, he did attend a couple of our training programs a few years ago. He was a local health official. We ran regular health training programs across Pakistan. Tens of thousands of Pakistanis have attended those. He was one of those who attended those two programs. But that's absolutely the only connection we can find between Dr. Afridi and Save the Children. We absolutely deny those allegations that are circulating in the media. And we're trying very hard to speak to the Pakistani government and to try and get to understand a little bit better how we can overcome this problem. Because we've been in Pakistan for 30 years. We've worked really well and very closely with the Pakistan government at both national level and at local authority level. And we help many, many people across the country, the poorest children and families in Pakistan. We want to continue to do that, and we really hope we can overcome any misunderstandings around this issue.
So is Pakistan becoming the wrong place for NGOs? To answer this question, we're joined by our panel of guests, all of whom are in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. Farzana Bari is a human rights activist. Ms. Bari is also the director of the Centre for Gender Studies at the Quaid-e-Azam University. Imtiaz Gul, he's executive director of the Centre for Research and Security Studies, a regular guest on this programme. And joining us by broadband, Khobaib Vahedy, the country director for Muslim Aid in Pakistan. That's an NGO based in London. Welcome to you all. We've heard a little bit of the background there, but I'd like Imtiaz maybe to bring our viewers further up to speed. I think everyone remembers the death of Osama bin Laden. But Imtiaz, explain to us how Save the Children's name got caught up in all this.
Well, basically, Save the Children had been working together with certain organizations and individuals in the northwestern regions where the American CIA and a couple of other intelligence agencies had been looking for Osama bin Laden, Dr. Imtiaz Zawahiri, his deputy, and several other al-Qaeda people. So once Osama bin Laden was killed, it transpired that one of the doctors based in the Khyber Regency in the tribal region of Pakistan, who had been on the payroll of the government, basically a government servant, they had been basically serving also for the Save the Children, and this is how the interrogators, the Americans, could get to the last hideout of Osama bin Laden and in Abbottabad. So basically,
okay, but Imtiaz, Save the Children.
State employee
Imtiaz,
was acting.
Save the Children are saying Imtiaz, one moment. Save the Children are saying that they had absolutely nothing to do with this doctor. Is this case based on fact or just suspicions?
Well, we also don't have real facts, but the issue, the fact that we have seen emerging and developing in Pakistan in the last decade or so has been an ever-increasing reliance of various intelligence agencies on the NGOs, international non-governmental organizations, including the United Nations. I mean, we have to remember, until 2001, most of the NGOs, the International Red Cross, as well as the UNHCR, they had absolutely no problem in working in Pakistan, even in the most troubled regions. And I don't recall any single incident in which any INGO personnel had been asked to leave Pakistan. So the entire issue, I think, has been developing over the last decade or so, with the increasing activities and presence of various intelligence operatives coming from Washington and from elsewhere.
Okay, let's bring in Khobaib, who's also in Islamabad from Muslim Aid. Can I ask you a simple question? How hard is it to be a charity worker right now in Pakistan?
Well, thank you, James. I think charity work and humanitarian work being done by the organizations is very commendable, and it shouldn't be undermined with some issues and problems if something has been occurred. Or I would request rather the government officials that everything should be dealt with due diligence and care, because one single mistake can badly affect the humanitarian work which is being done from, like, I can talk about the last decade after the earthquake and floods and IDPs, disasters, man-made disasters and natural disasters. This humanitarian response has got very high importance. And this is, I would rather say that this is the century of the NGOs, this is the century of relief and development. So this relief and development work shouldn't be affected. And one single mistake can affect if anything is not dealt carefully. So I think the humanitarian work and the response by the humanitarian organizations has got very high importance.
Okay, let's bring in Farzana. Farzana, I've worked in Pakistan many times. It's a very difficult place to be a journalist. In fact, it's the most dangerous place in the world last year, 2011, to be a journalist. We've heard now the suspicions against NGOs, but it's also very dangerous and insecure and a real security problems for them too, isn't it?
Yes, certainly. I feel, okay, I would like to keep this Save the Children, case separately. I don't know. I mean, if there is any evidence or if they are involved in kind of activities which they are not supposed to, I think I would like to keep that separate. However, I would like to say, yes, increasingly the security situation is getting worse, and partially also because some of these areas which are not now controlled by state or state authorities or state institutions, and increasingly there are pockets in Pakistan which are controlled by non-state actors. And I think these, particularly the religious militant groups, wherever they have their strongholds, they do not like NGOs to come in their areas, because NGOs' work is very much kind of perceived as with modernity, and it is perceived as if NGOs are serving Western agenda, because most of NGOs' work is basically about creating, like kind of a more secular, more liberal, promoting more liberal agenda, and in terms of people's empowerment, particularly focus on gender, women's empowerment, and all these things are seen as, directly in conflict with so-called, like what they perceive is our local tradition and culture. And as a result of that, what we see that in these areas increasingly, because I think in Pakistan the non-state actors are becoming, wherever in pockets they're becoming more powerful, it is becoming increasingly difficult for NGOs, not only NGOs and UN bodies, but also for Pakistani NGOs it's becoming difficult. Recently in Khohistan, for example, it has been declared by the Jirga, and NGOs have been issued a warning that they should leave the area. similarly, it has been happening in Fatah. Women, basically recently, NGO women worker Farida Afridi was murdered, and so there is a kind of I think onslaught in the sense, or a threat to also the local NGO workers as well. So yeah, this is ground reality, which I think we cannot deny that and I see it absolutely. I think it's worrisome because, as you know, Pakistan has been suffering with a lot of natural and man-made disaster for the last decade or so. We have more than 32 million people who have been affected with very different type of conflicts, in the country, natural and and the human-made. And I think the aid and donor agencies and international communities' presence to help people out is critically important. And if we are not able to provide that kind of a secure environment, I don't think it's it is going to it will be further disappointing as far as the people of Pakistan are concerned.
Farzana, you said you wanted to keep the Save the Children case separate, but don't you think the fact that this is now public and that the government seems to have taken action not renewing these visas, even though it's based on unproven claims, possibly unfounded claims, could just increase the suspicion on all international aid workers?
I think it will have the kind of negative implication, but however, I would say that NGOs come with certain development agendas or whatever, which is very much upfront, but if they are found involved in any other kind of activities, which I'm not so sure, but I think in the past there has been record, not in Pakistan, but other places where like Asia Foundation at times have been, in other countries, people have evidence that they have been working, for other than what they felt, what they claim that they are working for. So I think we cannot rule out that the NGOs or INGOs can be involved in some kind of activities in a country which is beyond their mandate. So however, I don't want to comment on that, but I personally feel that the government must have a very clear evidence, and they must show that they must share that evidence not only with Pakistan, the people of Pakistan, but also with the donor agencies, with other INGOs and other humanitarian organizations. And without any solid evidence to cancel anybody's, visas or tell them to leave, I don't think that's a very wise or a sensible approach to do. Yes,
okay,
if they have very clear evidence, only then they can do that.
Okay, Farzana, as you mentioned, it's not the first time that non-governmental organizations have come under government scrutiny around the world. In June, Uganda banned 38 non-governmental organisations. It said they were promoting homosexuality and recruiting children. And in December last year, the Egyptian government raided the offices of 17 local and international NGOs. It accused them of illegally using foreign funds to encourage unrest in the country. The son of the US Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, was among the 19 Americans charged. In 2009, Sudan expelled 13 non-governmental organisations for allegedly cooperating with the International Criminal Court in its investigation of the Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. In the same year, amid tensions over North Korea's nuclear program, North Korea expelled 5 humanitarian groups that distribute US aid. Khobaib, can I ask you, how important in your work is it to be neutral and to be seen to be neutral?
Well, thanks. This is a very appropriate question, James. The thing is, all the humanitarian organizations are working, and they have signed the ICRC Code of Conduct, and which the humanitarian principles are at the verge. Like, the most important thing is the humanitarian grounds. Like, the work is being executed on the humanitarian grounds. Second thing, impartiality, neutrality. Third thing, and also it's very important, the equality and working without any discrimination. And the operational independence is also one of the very important thing. And of course, transparency of all humanitarian activities. If you look around the humanitarian work, And I'm witness to in Pakistan, if I talk about that, all these principles have been adhered. And definitely, I fully agree with Farzana that what she said, that the government has to be very careful, and it shouldn't affect actually, if anything is communicated without proper evidence and without any detailed investigation, it can harm, it can badly, worsely affect the humanitarian contributions in the country, and which has got very high importance. And we cannot forget the contributions by the humanitarian organizations while working as per the humanitarian principles, as I mentioned, the impartiality, neutrality, and equality of the work. So it shouldn't be ignored or misled by any careless thing or effort.
Imtiaz, just 1 second, can I bring Imtiaz in now? And I'd like to get Imtiaz's perspective on one thing we've already talked about, which is the security situation on the ground in Pakistan. How hard is it for aid workers, particularly international aid workers, to travel around the country? We know that one worker from the International Committee of the Red Cross, Khalil Dale, was killed earlier this year. We know that other aid workers are kidnapped. I don't think we actually know how many, though, because there don't seem to be any proper figures. Imtiaz.
Yeah, I think most of the abductions that have taken place, or the murder that you talked about, took place in Balochistan. Balochistan is like 44% of entire Pakistani territory, and this is right now the hotbed of militancy, crime, and this is what has turned into a real black hole as far as the security is concerned. If you look at Pakistan currently, almost 36% of Pakistan's territory is facing one sort of a conflict, turmoil or the other, and about 100,000 square kilometer area in the northwest is affected also either by the sectarian or by the political or religious militancy, and this has really made it very, very difficult even for the Pakistani aid workers to operate freely, not to speak of the expatriates. I think their movement is primarily restricted just to the main towns like Quetta and Peshawar, and they find it very, very hard actually to get out of even Karachi. There is some sort of movement down south out of Karachi up to Hyderabad, but generally it has become very risky for the expatriates to operate as far as their relief work is concerned, for two reasons. One is the religious militancy, the other one is the crime. Criminal gangs have hooked up with a number of militant groups, and they are both operating together for multiple reasons, and the primary reason is to generate funds. The militants are looking for money, and the criminals are looking for social protection, social accommodation and acceptance that they get through the militant groups. So these are two factors that have made the lives and the work of aid workers pretty difficult in a lot of areas of Pakistan.
Imtiaz, our viewers will be aware of the other case that's in the news, that 14-year-old girl who's been given bail accused of blasphemy. Does this show the backdrop of an atmosphere of mistrust, division and suspicion? And do you think things are getting worse or better?
Yeah, I think the Rimsha Masih case, the girl who was bailed out this morning, just exemplifies the consequences that Pakistan is suffering as a result, particularly of the legislation, the Islamist legislation that Pakistan had enacted in 1978-79, and a lot of religio-political groups basically try to benefit from it, exploit it, abuse it and misuse it, and the trend has been going on. And these are the laws that also created space for militant groups, religio-political groups across Pakistan to operate with impunity, practically impunity. And this is what I think has emerged as a big threat to the democracy, to the liberalism, to liberal elements of Pakistan. This is just one example of how the space has been shrinking on all those Pakistanis who would like to see a liberal Pakistan prospering under the universally acknowledged democratic norms.
OK, I'd like to bring in Khobaib from Muslim Aid. We've heard some of the challenges that you face operating across this country. The danger, of course, if aid workers can't do their jobs, is the most vulnerable and the most poor in Pakistan are going to suffer. Tell us about some of the problems that you face. Obviously, you're dealing with people who are suffering from violence, but Pakistan is also a place that's been afflicted by natural disasters. I understand right now there are parts of Pakistan that are under floodwater, other parts of Pakistan that are suffering a drought.
Yes, of course, at times we have faced some problems in terms of delays in the approval and award of NOCs to work in the humanitarian relief geographical areas where the disaster response was required. There are at times some delays and gaps which has to be filled in. And also I would like to highlight the issue of even at times we need expert support and the expat humanitarian workers who have got the international exposure and experience, who have been working around the globe. At times they are required to deliver their services and train the local teams in the humanitarian work. And at times there are sometimes delays for the issuance of visas, which also affect the humanitarian work. But definitely after this one after another disasters like earthquakes, floods, and then IDPs, internally displaced people response time, there have been lots of improvements in terms of coordination, collaborations, and in terms of streamlining of the mechanism for the humanitarian response. Particularly, I would say the support from the National Disaster Management Authorities, NDMA and PDMAs, and obviously up to the districts level DDMAs. It has been instrumental, and we have witnessed that over the period there were lots of improvements.
Well, good to hear. Good to hear there are improvements. But Farzana, let me ask you this question: how much do you think Pakistan still needs international aid?
I think we certainly will be very much in need of that, and one of the reasons, of course, our economy, as you know, is constantly in a downward, and it's not picking up. We have this shrinking fiscal space, so any disaster, and we are fearing like this monsoon and the upcoming, the risk which we all, feel concerned about. So I think. And given the economic situation in the country, this is it is critically important that the foreign aid and that kind of a humanitarian assistance, particularly in the case of any sort of a natural disaster, has to be will be terribly needed. I think it's the people who will definitely suffer in case if for some reasons if humanitarian agencies have to pull out, I think definitely it will have a negative implications for the people of Pakistan, especially the poor.
Imtiaz, I know you follow the political situation very closely. How could Pakistan's government cope if it didn't have international aid next time there was severe flooding, next time there was an earthquake, for example?
Well, I think it's not about the foreign aid as much as it is about improving internal governance structures, improve the financial management, financial accounting. I think a lot of work needs to be done internally rather than looking up to the donors. I mean, in a country like Pakistan, which has suffered this 10, 11 years of turmoil, insecurity, no amount of aid will be enough. But if the governance structures, if the financial management is not correct, so even if you are donating $20 billion in a year to such a country, most of the money is then likely to go down the drain or into the pockets of a few individuals. So what we need is a very transparent financial accounting management, good governance, and only then probably can we talk of Pakistan acting on its own rather than looking up to the outsiders for assistance in case of a drought or an earthquake.
Thank you, Imtiaz. Thank you to all our guests. In Islamabad, we had Farzana Bari, Imtiaz Gul, and via broadband, Khobaib Vahedy. And as ever, we extend our thanks to you, the viewer, for being here with us. Thoughts, suggestions, comments and complaints can all be sent to us by email. Send them to insidestory@aljazeera.net and we'll read them all. I'll be back here in this same time slot 24 hours from now when we'll take our weekly look inside Syria. Join me then. Bye-bye.